Uncle Jasanam. Hatapu. Anuk Khepra Ptah, Manepreneur Haru Atenra Shaka. I am Khepra Ptah. I am a student of Baba Heri Khafra. I am a student of Baba Haru Samaj Ptah. I am also a student of various other African traditions. This includes the Yoruba tradition. This also includes teachings and traditions that stem from the Congo. So, we're going to talk about the power of the triple Hesi, which is Amun-Ra, or Necharak-Amun-Ra, Nukta-Tira-Amun-Ra, Nuka-Amun-Ra. Why is this important? Well, first of all, I am not coming from the school of thought where Amun-Ra is a being outside of ourselves, okay? I'm not coming from the school of thought where he's a space alien. I'm not coming from that school of thought, and I am not here to disrespect those who are under that ideology or belief system. But I'm simply here to pass on what was passed on to me. Amun-Ra is the wind, or Amun is the wind, and also the unseen aspect of Nter, or Netter. Netter is the Egyptian or Cometian word meaning a divine force, nature. And when we look at the word Netter, it is spelled with the water wave, the bread loaf, or some would say a breast, and the mouth. And some would say this is the mouth of a fish. So you might just say Netter can also be pronounced Nter. Okay? Just like Ntu is a Bantu word for divine spirit. Ntu, or Ntur. So when I say Inbu Tuau Ntur, I'm saying all praises be to the divine. Inbu Tuau Ntur. Or some would have it spelled as Nebu Tuau Netter. That is in the language that is spoken, which script is Medu Netter. So the Medu Netter are the symbols utilized to symbolize the phrases, words, and sentences that were made up of the hieroglyphic language that you find on the walls in the temples of ancient Kemet. We look at the word Amun-Ra. You see Amun and you see Ra. Amun is the wind and Ra is the fire. But in order to keep a fire burning, what do you need?
Air.
Air. Oxygen. So when we talk about breathing exercises, when you breathe correctly, you're continuing to kindle your inner fire. You are strengthening your life force with the correct amount of oxygen. And just like Brother Knowledge has brought, what's that, an ionizer? To make sure that we're getting a good amount of oxygen, which is good for the brain, good for the blood, and you also want to make sure that your blood is oxygenated. So when you're breathing in, you're getting this oxygen to flow through your whole being. And what's interesting is that it contains the word oxygen. Ox. Now the ox, right, is the first Hebrew letter, which we call Aleph and Alpha. But they got their ideas from dwelling amongst the Cometians to develop that particular script of writing, right? Some would say it stems from Proto-Semitic. So the Semitic alphabet was basically, it came about by them dwelling amongst the Cometians, and they had developed an idea of this phonetic writing script, and which evolved into the alphabet. You see, so you know you got the Hebrew word, you got the Hebrew letter Aleph, right, which in Arabic is Aleph, or Aleph and Aleph, Aleph for the Hebrew and Aleph for the Arabic script, and then it becomes Alpha for the Greeks, right? Aleph, Bet, Gamal, right, becomes Alpha, Beta, Gamma. So you look at the Greek script and you look at the Hebrew script and you see where they evolved from this phonetic script, which they call that of the Phoenician script, whatever. Okay. So just look at that and you'll see that these are all symbols. These are pictures. The Kemetic alphabet, or should I say the hieroglyphs, which means holy writings, those were reserved for the priesthood. Everybody didn't go around writing letter and reading letter, okay? In fact, there was various scripts that was utilized among the people of ancient Kemet. But first of all, before we get too deep into that, because that's actually another session for another time, we're going to talk about the triple Hesi, in which I learned from Baba Hedi Khepra. You say, Anecharak Amin Ra, Nuktatenet Amin Ra, Anuk Amin Ra. Anecharak Amin Ra means show me your face, indicating one is seeking the divine. Nuktatenet Amin Ra, I am the power of Amin Ra. Also understanding that one is identified with being or connected to the very source of Amin Ra, being the power of Amin Ra, having the power of Amin Ra, and having access to the power of Amin Ra, and also embodying that power, and then identifying with and as Amin Ra. I am Amin Ra. Anecharak Amin Ra, Nuktatenet Amin Ra, Anuk Amin Ra. And this is as it was revealed to me by Hedi Khepra through the Temple of the White and Gold Lotus. Hedi Khepra, we pour out Wabu on behalf of Hedi Khepra, who is now in spirit. We give thanks and praise to the presence of Hedi Khepra for teaching and sharing the triple Hesi. So you got the triple Hesi, and you're also dealing with 3 levels of realization. But we also looked at the phases of the sun. In the morning, the sun is in the stage of Khepra, and at high noon, Ra, and to the time of the setting sun, Atum. And then to the unseen periods of midnight and beyond, or in the nighttime and beyond, you also have Sikr. That's the Sikr hours. Right? But the 3 stages of the sun, when the sun is visible, it's the Khepra stage, the Ra stage, and the Atum stage. And then you go to what is called the setting period. So each and every one of us have that type of life where we are born, we maintain ourselves for a moment, in our youth, and then we start becoming elders, right? And then we are towards the age of the setting sun in our life, or the time of the setting sun in our lives, you see. So when you're looking at the riddle of the Sphinx, it says, what starts out on all 4s, stands up on 2, and ends up on 3.
Say it again.
What starts out on 4, crawling, okay, stands up on 2, and ends on 3, before they actually end it. That's the riddle of Sphinx. But obviously that's talking about man. But notice how that also mathematically deals with the number 9. Because it's talking about your life, right, being limited in its linear fashion, right, yet eternal. But you go through a process of when it comes into birth, then it's maintained for a while, then it declines. But that's cycles of life. It appears linear, but it's not really linear. It's just dealing with cycles. So you don't really die. We talk about going to the land of the West. On the west of the Nile is where the kings and people were buried, and royal officials buried. So when you go through your process of life, right, and when you go through the process of death, in an ancient Comitian tradition, you would be considered traveling west or westing. You don't die. You just west. You go to the setting sun, and then eventually you'll rise again. Now, on another level, you go through the process of birth, life, and death. And you can also say you are reborn through a descendant. In the African way of looking at things, you are reborn through your descendants. So, the cycle of life is forever a continuity. When you get into your state of connecting with the divine and you're moving beyond this construct of linear time, you experience the past, present, and future simultaneously. When you go into a deeper state of meditation, you get beyond this construct of time. But since you are here in this physical plane, where you have to get up, go to work, and everything else, you become very time conscious. And then you begin to see yourself as having limitations. And a lot of it's connected to not only our consciousness of time, but the language that we have been taught to speak. And because we're speaking a certain language, it has shaped our ways of thinking. So we've developed a Western worldview that keeps you on a schedule. But because you are trying to make a buck and make a living, because they're teaching you that that's how you make a living, they keep you on an artificial construct of time. And the problem is that the longer we have been in this system, the more and more we're beginning to get away from the netero, or the natural way of doing things, like gardening and growing food and learning how to heal yourself with herbs or raising livestock. So now, if someone was to lose their cell phone, right, they'll be almost rendered helpless because they're so stuck on utilizing the cell phone. You see, a lot of people are looking for a microchip. Well, they did chip you. They just didn't put it in your head yet. They just put it in your pocket.
You put it in your pocket, huh?
Exactly. They told you that this is a cool thing to do, and you agreed to have it. You see? You know? And we get together, and people are scared to have the curtains open, and here you are, got the tracking device in your pocket. You know? So now, what you're dealing with is the fact that you got away from nature so much that you're no longer in tune the way you once were. There was a time when there were no cell phones. They may have been telephones. And if grandma and auntie had telephones down in the South or whatever, they may sense, or if they didn't have a telephone, should I say, they may sense that auntie down the street needed something and the send you and say, go check on auntie. They were in tune.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? But we don't need to be in tune now, do we? Because that little device that we carry with us seems to do everything for us. There was this, I think it's a Pixar, I think it was called WALL-E, and it's about a robot.
Yep.
Right? And all these people begin to become like
fat
and obese, right? They were not able to do anything. I'm talking about to the point that they couldn't even move their arms and legs.
Yeah.
Right? They couldn't even move. Their bodies had become useless because the machinery had taken over and was doing everything for them. Okay? So therefore, they weren't able to move. They weren't able to move. They were hardly even able to think. And that's what happens when you become too dependent on.
They all had screens on them chairs they were sitting in. Screens.
What's that now?
They all had screens on them chairs they were sitting in, like screens they was looking at TV and everything.
Yeah.
Just sitting down, riding around.
And there's truth to that. You see? And that's what could become of each and every one of us if we allow ourselves to be too attached to that which is artificial as opposed to working with that which is natural. One of the reasons why a lot of illness and sickness is running rampant is because of the fact that we've gotten away from nature. So we talk about the Neteru, who they have translated or wrongfully mislabeled as Egyptian gods and goddesses. We're looking at these divine forces and spiritual entities and energies in which we can communicate and tap into, but they survive as variations or various forms of agents of the divine. Like, for instance, You have the Orishas of the Yoruba, or the Voodooans, or the Voodoo people, or even when, I mean the Voodoo people, my ancestors. Actually, I got ancestors from Togo and so forth. The religion there actually today is Voodoo, or Vodun, right? Vodun means the spirit of God. But let Hollywood tell you, it's sticking needles in dolls and worship, and running away from zombies. See? So anyway, again, working with the ancient ancestral ways and connecting with the forces of nature. Because in order for us to thrive, you still got to tap into nature. But who knows how to go and pick an herb when they're ill? Who knows about the herbs around their backyard and what they can use them for? But we're used to going to the doctor and getting prescription drugs. And they've made that quite fashionable. And then when you look into the ancient traditions, you discover that food is your medicine. Imhotep understood this. And you'll find this in a lot of holistic practices today. So when you identify with the energies of Amun-Ra, you're saying, I am Amun-Ra, meaning that I am that which is not only hidden, but also that which is revealed. And as another brother who was a priest, I heard him speak about Amun-Ra, meaning that which is hidden in plain sight. But every one of us is looking for the divine. We're all looking for the divine, right? Those who are at least on a spiritual quest. And we begin to look for that which is where? Within. But everything we see around us is a reflection of that which is within. As above, so below, as within, so without. And when we understand that the universe is holographic in nature, and we talk about every part of a hologram contains a whole, we begin to see ourselves as a part of the whole. So, to do something anywhere in the universe is affecting the universe as a whole. You see. So, everything we do is having an effect on the environment. We're sending ripple effects. When you're around other people, the resonance of one person can resonate with, cause everybody else in the room to resonate with that person depending on the vibration this person is on. And a lot of times we're picking up on the vibrations of other people, resonating with them. It's been a proven fact that if you're around someone for 21 days, you begin to pick up on some of their habits and characteristics and behavior patterns. So yes, you resonate with other people. We resonate like tuning forks. And this is why it's important to be around those people who would like to elevate their own consciousness and those who would like to do things with their lives. Not so much live a life of fear. And if you notice, I have a very, very stiff way of dealing with people who are fear-based. Not because I think they're bad people, or that I think that they they're any less than. But I'm trying to get people to break out of that fear because it will immobilize you. You'll be so scared and paranoid that you will not do anything with your life. When I was young, I recall the elders used to constantly talk about the end of the world coming.